The wager. The chandeliers of the Grand Horizon Hotel sparkled like suspended constellations above the annual Delhi Education Foundation Gala. Prisha Malhotra adjusted her modest navy blue sari, feeling distinctly out of place among the designer-clad elite. At 32, she had dedicated her life to Akshar, the literacy program she'd built from scratch in the suburban slums of Delhi, and tonight's fundraiser was crucial for its survival. 3 minutes. Then you can escape to the corner with the samosas, she promised herself, smoothing flyaway strands of hair that had escaped her simple bun. Across the room, Vikram Singhania nursed his third whiskey, his custom-tailored Armani suit failing to disguise the boredom etched across his features. At 38, the heir to Singhania Tech Solutions found these charity events tedious, necessary evils for maintaining the family's public image. There she is, Rohan Mehra, his childhood friend and business rival, nodded toward Prisha. The famous Prisha Malhotra. They say she turned down a position at Oxford to teach children in slums. Probably the only woman in Delhi who wouldn't fall at your feet. Vikram's eyes narrowed as he studied her. There was something striking about her, not conventional beauty, but a quiet intensity that commanded attention. She's not my type, Vikram replied dismissively. Or perhaps, Rohan smirked, swirling his drink. She's simply immune to the famous Singhania charm. Face it, Vic, you've grown predictable. Supermodels and socialites, they're too easy. Something in Rohan's tone ignited a spark of irritation. What exactly are you suggesting? A wager. Rohan leaned closer, lowering his voice. Make Ms. Righteous fall for you within 1 month. If you succeed, I'll donate 50 lakhs to your father's political campaign. If you fail... He paused dramatically. You give me that beachfront property in Goa. Vikram should have dismissed it immediately. Yet something, pride, boredom, or perhaps the challenge in Rohan's eyes, made him extend his hand. Deal. Later that evening, Vikram strategically positioned himself near Prisha as she made her pitch to potential donors. Impressive speech, he commented, offering her a glass of water. Though I noticed you didn't mention technological literacy. Prisha accepted the water cautiously. Because basic literacy comes first. What good is teaching coding to someone who can't read? Fair. Point. I'm Vikram Singhania. I know who you are, Mr. Singhania. Your company's educational apps are quite popular, though completely inaccessible to my students. Perhaps we could change that, he replied smoothly. I'd be interested in seeing your program firsthand. Prisha's eyebrows rose. Would you? It's quite different from your usual 5-star surroundings. We meet in a repurposed warehouse with intermittent electricity. I'm more adaptable than you might think, Vikram smiled, feeling the familiar thrill of the chase. Tomorrow, perhaps? Something flickered in Prisha's dark eyes. Suspicion, curiosity, or perhaps both. Tomorrow at 4. Don't wear anything. You'd mind getting dirty. As she walked away, Vikram felt a twinge of unexpected anticipation. This would be different from his usual conquests, more challenging certainly, but potentially more interesting. What he couldn't possibly know was how completely this wager would transform his life. Beneath the facade, the warehouse that housed Akshar was exactly as Prisha had described, a vast, repurposed industrial space with oscillating fans barely stirring the humid Delhi air. Vikram stepped carefully around puddles from the morning rain, his Italian loafers already gathering dust despite his best efforts. You actually came, Prisha remarked, not bothering to hide her surprise. She wore a simple cotton kurta and jeans, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. I half expected you to send an assistant with a check instead. I'm full of surprises, Vikram replied with his practiced smile, the one that had graced business magazines and charmed investors. Though I admit this is different from my usual venues. Different meaning real? Prisha handed him a stack of workbooks. Here, make yourself useful. These need to be distributed to the advanced reading group. For the next 2 hours, Vikram found himself immersed in a world he'd never bothered to acknowledge. Children from ages 6 to 16 worked diligently at mismatched tables, some wearing uniforms from various schools, others in simple everyday clothes. What struck him most was their focus, the fierce concentration in their eyes as they sounded out words, the pride when they completed a paragraph. "That's Aditya," Prisha said quietly, noticing his gaze on a serious boy of about 12. "His father drives an auto rickshaw, works 18 hours daily. Aditya comes here after helping at their fruit stand. He wants to be an engineer." Something uncomfortable shifted in Vikram's chest. "And will he?" "If I have anything to say about it," Prisha replied with such conviction that Vikram almost believed her. Over the next 2 weeks, Vikram found himself returning to Akshar with increasing frequency. He told himself it was for the bet. Cataloging Prisha's favorite chai blend, masala with extra ginger, noting how her rare smiles transformed her entire face, discovering her passion for old Hindi poetry. All valuable intelligence for his campaign of seduction. Yet something was changing. He found himself staying late, helping students with math problems. He brought in tablets for the older children, set up a proper Wi-Fi network, fixed the erratic electrical wiring. When Prisha protested that she couldn't accept such expensive gifts, he insisted they were company cast-offs, a lie that would have been unnecessary a month ago. "You're different here," Prisha observed one evening as they locked up. The monsoon rain pattered against the metal roof, creating a cocoon of sound around them. "When you're with the children, you drop the Billionaire act." "What act?" Vikram leaned against a bookshelf, genuinely curious. "The one where you pretend nothing matters," she said simply. "The one where you hide behind sarcasm and designer labels." Their eyes met, and for a disorienting moment, Vikram felt transparent, as if all his carefully constructed walls had suddenly turned to glass. "Have dinner with me," he said impulsively. "Not at some overpriced restaurant. My home. I'll cook." Prisha's eyebrows shot up. "You cook?" Another surprising talent, he grinned. Though the truth was he'd been taking secret lessons from his chef for the past week, anticipating this moment. "All right," she agreed cautiously. "But I'm not easily impressed by penthouses and panoramic views. Then I'll have to find other ways to impress you," he replied. Later that night, as Vikram's driver navigated through Delhi's rain-slicked streets, he found himself planning the dinner with uncharacteristic nervousness. He scrolled through his contacts to update Rohan on his progress, then hesitated, his finger hovering over the call button. For the first time, the bet felt hollow, even distasteful. What had begun as a game was becoming something else entirely, something he wasn't ready to name but couldn't ignore. He put the phone away, unsettled by the realization that Prisha's opinion of him suddenly mattered more than winning any wager. Unexpected revelations. The dinner was nothing short of a revelation. Vikram's penthouse, a minimalist showcase of glass and steel overlooking Delhi's glittering skyline, had been transformed. He'd dismissed the staff, filled the sterile space. With marigolds and jasmine, he'd noticed Prisha's preference for Indian flowers over imported varieties, and prepared a simple but elegant meal of home-style Punjabi dishes. "I'm impressed," Prisha admitted, accepting a glass of wine. "Though, I'm struggling to reconcile this Vikram with the man I first met. Perhaps both are real," he suggested, surprising himself with his honesty. "We all have different versions of ourselves, don't we?" Their conversation flowed effortlessly, skipping from literature to politics, childhood memories to future dreams. For once, Vikram found himself speaking without calculation, sharing stories he'd never told at boardroom dinners or society galas. "My father wanted a successor, not a son," he confessed as they moved to the balcony with cups of masala chai. Every achievement was merely meeting expectations, never exceeding them. Prisha studied him over the rim of her cup. Is that why you built those walls? To protect yourself from disappointment? The question hit with unexpected precision. I've never thought of it that way. Maybe it's time you did, she said softly. Days blurred into weeks. Vikram found himself rearranging board meetings to volunteer at Akshar, challenging his father's conservative business practices, questioning patterns that had defined his life for decades. The deadline for Rohan's bet approached, but Vikram barely noticed, caught in the gravitational pull of a woman who saw through his defenses and still chose to stay. Then came the evening that shattered everything. Vikram had invited Prisha to a gallery opening featuring artists from Delhi's underprivileged communities. He was running late, stuck in a contentious meeting with international investors. When he finally arrived, he scanned the crowded gallery anxiously, spotting Prisha in animated conversation with a curator. What he didn't immediately notice was Rohan, champagne in hand, approaching her with the practiced smoothness of a predator. By the time Vikram reached them, it was too late. Quite the accomplishment, making Vikram Singhania work so hard for a wager, Rohan was saying, his voice carrying just enough to reach nearby guests. Though 50 lakhs for his father's campaign seems cheap for a month of playing charity worker, the beachfront property he risked was worth at least 5 crores. The color drained from Prisha's face. Her eyes, when they found Vikram's, held such raw betrayal that he physically recoiled. Prisha, I can explain, he began, but she was already moving toward the exit, dignity intact despite the trembling of her hands. Prisha, wait, Vikram called, ignoring the curious stares of Delhi's elite. She turned, her voice low but steady. Was any of it real, or was I just another acquisition for your collection? Before he could answer, she was gone, leaving Vikram, standing among beautiful paintings that suddenly seemed meaningless, with the sickening realization that he had destroyed something precious before fully understanding its value. Broken trust. For 3 days, Prisha ignored Vikram's calls, texts, and the increasingly elaborate flower arrangements delivered to Akshar. On the 4th day, she requested that the security guard prevent Mr. Singhania or his representatives from entering the premises. The children asked about him, especially Aditya, who had grown attached to Vikram's patient math tutoring, but Prisha deflected their questions with practiced composure. Only at night, alone in her modest apartment, did she allow herself to acknowledge the depth of her hurt. It wasn't just the humiliation of being the subject of a bet. It was the loss of what she had begun to believe was real connection. Despite her caution, she had allowed herself to see the man beneath the billionaire facade, to believe in his transformation. Fool, she whispered to herself, staring at the ceiling fan slowly circling above her bed. Such a predictable, classic fool. Meanwhile, Vikram moved through his life like a ghost. He attended meetings, signed contracts, nodded at appropriate intervals, all while feeling hollowed out. The bet's deadline came and went. Rohan sent the property papers with a smug note. Better luck next time. Vikram transferred them back along with the promised 50 lakhs for his father's campaign, adding a curt message. The bet is nullified. Stay away from Prisha Malhotra. His father noticed the change. You seem distracted, Rajiv Singhania remarked during their weekly dinner. Is it that woman from the literacy program? Your mother mentioned you've been spending time there. It's nothing, Vikram replied automatically. Nothing doesn't make my son look like he's lost his purpose, his father said with unexpected perception. I may not approve of your charitable distractions, but I recognize a man in turmoil when I see one. That night, Vikram made a decision. He drafted a press release announcing his resignation as CEO of Singhania Tech Solutions, established an independent foundation for educational technology in underserved communities, and transferred 20% of his personal holdings to fund it. His father was livid. Generations of building this company, and you walk away for what? Some misplaced guilt? A woman who won't even speak to you? For myself, Vikram answered simply. For the first time, I'm doing something because it matters, not because it's expected. Weeks passed. Vikram immersed himself in his foundation's work, deliberately choosing communities far from Akshar's territory. He declined interviews, avoided social events, and worked with a dedication that surprised even those who had known him longest. Then came the message that changed everything, not from Prisha but from 12-year-old Aditya, sent from his mother's phone. Sir, I passed my entrance exam for the science program. Miss Prisha helped, but I used the techniques you taught me. When are you coming back? Vikram stared at the phone, a lump forming in his throat. He typed and deleted a dozen responses before simply writing, Congratulations, Aditya. I'm very proud of you. What he didn't know was that Prisha was reading over Aditya's shoulder, her expression unreadable as she processed the genuineness of Vikram's simple message, and the notable absence of any attempt to use the boy to reach her. Perhaps, she thought reluctantly, some transformations were real after all. Second chances, 6 months passed. Delhi's brutal summer gave way to autumn, bringing relief from the heat and a sense of renewal. Prisha expanded Akshar to a second location, implementing many of the technological innovations Vikram had once suggested. His foundation, though operating independently, had revolutionized educational access across northern India, creating affordable tablets and educational software specifically designed for rural communities. They existed in parallel, their work, occasionally intersecting in professional journals or education conferences, but never directly connecting, until the day of the Delhi Educational Innovation Summit. Prisha spotted him immediately, slightly thinner, his once immaculate suit replaced by a simple kurta pajama. He was deep in conversation with a rural teacher, listening with the genuine attention she had once found so surprising in him. She could have avoided him. Should have, perhaps. Instead, she found herself walking directly toward him. Your panel presentation was impressive, she said, her voice steadier than she felt, especially the integration of traditional storytelling with digital literacy. Vikram turned, surprise giving way to careful neutrality. Thank you. Your expansion model has become something of a blueprint for my foundation's community partnerships. An awkward silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. Aditya asks about you, she finally offered. He's top of his class now. Something softened in Vikram's expression. I'm glad to hear it. He has remarkable potential. Would you like to see for yourself? The invitation surprised them both. He's leading a peer tutoring program on Thursdays. I'd like that, Vikram replied cautiously, if you're comfortable with my presence. They walked together toward the refreshment area, the tension gradually easing. I never apologized properly, Vikram said quietly. Not just for the bet, which was inexcusable, but for not being honest when things changed. When I changed. And have you? Prisha asked, the question that had haunted her for months. Changed, I mean. Instead of the immediate assurances she expected, Vikram considered her question seriously. I'm trying, he finally said. Every day. Not to impress you or anyone else, but because you showed me a better version of myself, and I couldn't unsee it. The simple honesty of his answer resonated more deeply than any grand declaration could have. Later that evening, they sat in a small chai shop near the conference center, the familiar aroma of cardamom and ginger creating a cocoon of comfort around them. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Vikram said, turning his cup between his hands, or for things to return to what they were. I just want you to know that what happened between us, what I began to feel, that was real. Perhaps the first real thing in my life. Prisha studied him, seeing both the man she had begun to care for and the one who had hurt her. I can't promise anything, she said finally, but I believe in second chances. I teach my students that growth comes from acknowledging mistakes and doing better. Then let me do better, he replied simply. Not as the man I was, but as the one I'm becoming. As they stepped out into the Delhi evening, the city lights blurring into a canvas of possibilities around them, Prisha allowed herself to acknowledge a simple truth. Hearts, like minds, could learn and grow. And sometimes, the most profound. Transformations began with the courage to start again. She didn't take his hand, but she walked beside him. A beginning, not of what was, but of what might be.